Well, and we also mentioned that Wednesday night that they part of that Praetorian Guard that was converted when we talked about Paul's miracles that he did on Malta. Why is that in there? Why was that mentioned? And it very well may be them. So speaking about that, question 2, what do we read about the centurion in verses 1 and 3?
He was kind to Paul.
Okay. Okay, so we see his kindness there. And just as introductory, he's the centurion charged with Paul's arrival to Rome to stand before Nero. Luke tells us his name is Julius, which would be borrowed from Caesar, like Claudius Lysias was before. We've adopted the name of a Caesar. The Greek word is Sebastos, which means August or Augustus or imperial. And in fact, we actually have extra biblical evidence of this cohort in Syria, in and around Caesarea. So we don't just read about them here in the Bible. We have extra biblical, probably Josephus and others. So after they left Caesarea, and I don't think I have, I've got that there. So here's Caesarea down here, the bottom. For those of you on this side of the building, it's over here. And so they are moving up to Sidon, and then they're going to come around. 70 nautical miles from Caesarea, they landed at Sidon. Listen, this is a trade vessel that they're on, and it's going to stop at ports. It's going to offload cargo, take on more cargo, and continue on. And so after they arrived there, Julius allowed Paul to get off and meet with his friends, which again gets back to Otto's point that his kindness. The word is philanthropos, from which we get philanthropy, and it just has to do with human kindness. And to go to his friends so they could provide for him makes us wonder if Julius already knows Paul. He certainly trusts him. It's not like he sent a guard with him. It doesn't say so. There's no chains. We're not going to hear about chains again until the 28th chapter in verse 20, and then if that's literal. And again, that would be chains and not stocks like we had in Philippi. And could Paul have escaped if he wanted to then? Yeah. Why isn't he going to? Why doesn't he even want to? Roger?
Because the Lord told him he was going to Rome.
Yeah, so he's going to go to Rome. And he wants to go to Rome. He's wanting to go to Rome and then go other places afterwards. So Julius trusted that he would return before it sailed. And again, from chapter 23 and verse 11 and Romans chapter 1 and verse 11, Paul's intent is to go to Rome. He wants to go to Rome. He's not looking to get out of going to Rome. Yes, Tim?
I was just doing some looking up about where this ship came from, and if the spelling is almost the same as what I've got here, they're halfway up. Let's see.
Yeah. Let me hold you on that comment till question 3.
Okay.
So, and then I'll call on you right away. And again, back inside, and who are these friends that he gets to go? I assume they're believers in Sidon. Perhaps some of those that were scattered back in chapter 11 and verse 19. Listen, they wouldn't have had any advance notice of Paul's coming. But hospitality is a trademark and characteristic of God's people. And so when Paul gets off and word gets off that Paul the apostle is there, they provided food for him. I don't know how long this stop is going to be. It could be a few hours. It could be a day or so. They provided everything, and they provided things for his journey as well. So, yes?
You know, it also says that he was allowed to go free to visit his friends and receive care.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting to me, is must have been a physician or somebody there that knew he needed help.
Right.
Couldn't help him in any
Right.
health problems that he had. But you know, Julius, if Paul would have left and escaped, Julius knew it was certain death for him.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so he must have known.
Yeah, he must have trusted him. Otherwise, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Lysias' life is on the line with that. Roger?
Yeah, the provisions with his friends would have been far better than those on the ship, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know, and besides that, the care that he.
Right. Well, and you think, okay, you've got Christians in Caesarea. I'm sure that they helped him, but after a while, if you've been on a ship and it's 70 miles, nautical miles, that they're sailing and coming back in, and I know when I'm out like that, I need a bath when I get back on. So that could have been just the care, just to provide him with some normal personal hygiene type stuff. So what were their original travel plans? Verse 3, and so Tim, tell us what you found out about Adramyttium there.
Yeah, so they were originally gonna go along the Asian coast.
Right?
But what I saw from that place is that not only did it have a commercial port, but a naval port as well.
Oh, and Adramyttium? Yeah, okay, I didn't know that. It's not far from Troas, as you can see there. Troas is just to the north. And this is obviously then a coastal ship. So it's just gonna, if I can manage it here, they would go here and it just bounce around until hitting all of those ports until it actually got home. And right now, it's pretty far from home for a coastal ship. I mean, it's all the way down to Caesarea. I don't know how much further south it had gone, but now they're heading all the way back up to their home. Secondly, because this is a boat of Adramyttium, it's not ever going to go to Rome. This boat is going home. But it's on there. I'm thinking Julius is hoping to find a boat as they go, or a ship as they go, that's going to go to Rome, and then they can transfer all these people over there. But again, this is no small boat. You got the same amount of prisoners on this as they have on the one that's going to Rome. So we've got a large group of people here. Listen, that's just a guess, but I don't see any reason why they would take the boat from Adramyttium when they're wanting to go to Rome if they're not hoping to, do a southwest flight and have a connecting boat somewhere onto Rome later on. Any questions or comments on question 3? Okay, so what changed their plans and where did they sail? Okay, so they sailed across from Sidon. They sailed across here and came around Cyprus, and going west, they passed on the lee of Cyprus, passed on the eastern side to avoid those westerly winds, and so then they go to from Cyprus. They go by Cilicia. Who's from there? Paul, yeah, from Tarsus. And then past Pamphylia, and they finally get to Lycia, which is where Myra, the city of Myra is. And again, heading there to do some trade. Now, Luke doesn't tell us how long this part of the journey took. The Western text, which I don't know how many of you, it's not in the King James Version, I don't think. It doesn't say a fortnight anywhere in the King James Version. But in a Western text, it says it took a fortnight to arrive there. And of course, that's 2 weeks. But it seems like this part of the journey is taking longer than what Julius anticipated. And again, remember, the ship is never going to Rome, and he knows that. So they have to make a change. They have to get on to a different ship to make it to Rome. So question 5 then, where and why did they change ships? Go ahead, Roger.
It was a ship that was going to Italy.
Okay, yes, and so so they're delayed here in Myra for whatever reason. And while they're there, Julius finds a ship of Alexandria, which is, where is it? Thought I have it. There it is, down there in Egypt. So that's where this ship that they're going to be on comes from. Listen, that would be a fortuitous find. It's a boat going where they want to go, and they're still at this point in time in the sailing season. And in fact, this is the normal way for them to travel. And I think that Julius had intended to find a ship to Rome at some place along the line. Caligula, the earlier Caesar, wrote to young Prince Agrippa that we just met a few minutes ago, or last week, told him that for him to travel from Palestine to Rome, he said, and this is a quote, and I don't have down the historical reference it came from, but Caligula said, "Don't bother with galleys and the coastal routes, but take one of our direct Italy-Alexandria merchantmen." So Egypt and Rome had a huge trade. They were trade partners in major ways. Alexandria probably had wheat and other things, and paper and other products. And so Caligula said, grab one of those boats that's going to take you to Italy. Even Vespasian used that means of travel in 70 AD when he was coming. And listen, Vespasian had at his disposal any of the military galleys to go where he wanted to go as being the commander of the Roman armies. And he took one of these Alexandria, Italy boats. And it would have to have been a longer ship, because you can see here that we're going across open sea, and then open sea to get to Rome up here. And so this is a model of one of these ships. I know you probably, it's hard to picture because you can't see there's no person on there, but that's 150 feet long. That's half a football field from bow to stern. And some that they were on was even longer. That one would be like 180. Can you see? Does anybody know why the right side of a ship is called starboard? That's where the steering board was, is on the right side. How many steering boards does this ship have? It has two. The ancient ships had one on either side. And so this one does too. You can't see the other one on the other side. I know it's on there because that's on the left side. So there have to be another one on the starboard side. But they were 180 feet long and 44 feet from the bottom of the bottom of the boat, the keel of the boat, to the deck. And then here is a cutaway of what it would look like inside. Though I think that's a little bit, that guy there is like 20 feet tall. So there'd be more room in there than that. No cabins, no place for people to sleep. So the soldiers and the prisoners where are they sleeping? On the deck. On the deck. Because this is not a cruise. Okay, there's other things going on. And in fact, there's not even necessarily that much room on the deck, because they're filling the deck as well with cargo if they need the space. So let me read to you what Josephus wrote in what he calls, his book was called Vita, which stands for life, and tells the story of his own shipwreck that he was part of. And so Josephus said, "But when I was in the 26th year of my life, it happened that I took a voyage to Rome, and this on the occasion which I will now describe. At the time when Felix was procurator in Judea," so we're pretty close to where we are here historically, "there were certain priests of my acquaintance, and very excellent persons they were, whom on a small and trifling occasion, Felix had put into bonds and sent to Rome to plead their case before Caesar. So this, remember I told you that Felix was called on the carpet by Caesar because he was mistreating the people. Well, this is probably has to do with that whole scenario. He said, Josephus again says, "These I was desirous to procure deliverance for, and that especially because I was informed that they were not unmindful of piety towards God, even under their afflictions, but supported themselves with figs and nuts. Accordingly, I came to Rome, though it were through a great number of hazards by sea, for as our ship was drowned in the Adriatic Sea, we that were in being about 600 in number, so almost double what we have on Paul's ship, swam for our lives all the night. When upon the first appearance of the day and upon our sight of a ship of Cyrene, I and some others, 80 in all by God's providence, prevented the rest and were taken up into the other ship." So out of the 600, it seems like only 80 survived. So maybe that's even the ship that he was on was even a bigger ship because, again, they have almost 3 times the passengers and with a much worse outcome. So Julius puts him on board. Again, probably the very kind of boat he was looking for to begin with. And so now they are on the boat from Myra heading towards, hopefully heading towards Rome. Any questions? Yes?
This is speculation, of course. Do you think, did Julius have the authority to seize that ship, to force them to take them?
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Yes, there was an agreement between Rome and the merchants of Alexandria. There was contractual agreements that we'll buy the stuff that you bring, but they also had the ability and authority to, I wouldn't say confiscate. It was like, and not even that. It's just that we can use this boat for our needs whenever we need. And there was an agreement for them to be able to do that. It's not so much like what was it the Roman army could do? Press into service. I don't know that it was that strong. I think it was actually because when you're pressed into service, it's not you didn't really want to, and this was part of their agreement.
Is that like reconnoiter or whatever that word is?
Reconnoiter means to look ahead and spy out. And
Well, couldn't the Union troops during the Civil War do that? Come up to farms and just say we're taking.
yeah, that's confiscation. I don't think that was part of this.
I think they might have been able to threaten them that if you don't go along with us, we'll make sure we never use you.
Right, exactly. Your contract's canceled, and then what are you going to do? You got a boat with nothing to carry and no place to sell it. So it was favorable for both of them. So in verses 7 and 8, it says, "We made slow headway for many days and had difficulty arriving off Cnidus. When the wind did not allow us to hold our course, we sailed to the lee of Crete opposite Salome. We moved along the coast with difficulty and came to a place called Fair Havens near the town of Lasea." And so they made slow headway for many days and had difficulty. And Cnidus, here's Myra where they left, and it took them many days just to go that far. Just to Cnidus. Farrar said that under favorable conditions, that's a 24-hour trip. 24 hours, and they're taking many days. So things are being slowed down. They sailed along south, hoping to let Crete, here's Crete, they're hoping to come around this way, because obviously the winds are blowing out, they're westerly winds, and hoping to make up some time coming in behind Crete. Listen, a wind is named, I have to constantly remind myself of this, a wind is named after the direction from which it blows, not the direction it is blowing. So the wind blowing from the west is called a westerly. A wind that's coming out of the northeast is called a nor'easter, which we're going to be very familiar with before we're done here. And so this is the northeast wind. And this is courtesy of the Church of the Brethren Network. I couldn't get rid of their words. I couldn't find this map any other place. But I'll point this out to you again. What do you see about the geography of Crete right through there?
It's like a valley.
No mountains. That's a funnel. And the winds come out of the northeast and they just whip across Crete, and there's nothing to slow them down. Nothing at all. And so at this time of the year, there would have been northwesterly winds. That's what drove them south in the first place. And then when they rounded the Cape of Salome, let me see, maybe I need to go another. Here's the Cape of Salome here. So when they rounded that and they're coming around this direction, they hugged the southern coast of Crete and with difficulty made it to the place called Fair Havens near Lasea. Mike, can you tell me what slide number I'm on right there?
10 of 19.
That's number 10? Okay, that's where I want to be. So here's Lasea and here's Fair Havens. Now, when you think of the name of a harbor called Fair Havens, what's the connotation of that? Oh, it's wonderful. You know, when I was moving up here from Southern California back in 2004, and people were saying, well, where are you going to be? I said, well, we're looking at a house in Silverdale, and we're looking at a house in Port Orchard. And when you say Port Orchard to people in Southern California, what do they think? Oh, what a beautiful place. They picture a port just surrounded by orchards. You know, I mean, just this, it's got to be a park-like setting, you know. Oh, I wish I was moving with you. Well, Fair Havens gives that same kind of a connotation. But the fact that, and as you read this, a place called Fair Havens near the town of Lasea, what does that tell you about Fair Havens? When you're across country and people ask you where you're from, what do you usually say? Seattle. And it would be like, they came to Bremerton, which is near Seattle. So this is Fair Havens, near Lasea. Fair Havens is a nondescript, you know, nobody knows where it is. Its identity is not really its own. And listen, this is the only place in literature of the ancient times, counting this, that you'll ever read about Fair Havens. It's not in any Greek book anywhere. Not mentioned, yes.
Reminds me of the verse in our songbook, Fair Haven of Rest for the Weary.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. I almost started singing that song there. So it's the easternmost safe harbor is over here in Phoenix.
Westernmost?
Yeah. No, I meant what I said. The easternmost, if you're looking at Crete going this way, that's the last safe haven you're going to find going this direction. And it's still 40 miles to the west. So basically that's the only safe harbor on the southern part of Crete. That's it. There's where it is. I said take two clicks, and so that's where they need to go somehow to get there. Okay. Any questions on this second leg of their journey as they're going to try to make it to Phoenix? Is it interesting to you that Phoenix is that's there? Phoenix is a, mythological bird out of which Phoenix, Arizona is named after. We're not the first Phoenix here in the United States. There was other Phoenixes along the way. Okay, let's see if we can get done with question 7 here. What does the fast have to do with their journey? Because in verse 9, we've already talked about them having difficulty, many days, all of the ship from Adramyttium was taking more time to do all of its travel. And so now in verse 9, Luke says, much time had been lost and sailing had already become dangerous because by now it was after the fast. What does the fast have to do with that? Randy?
I have a footnote that says it's the Day of Atonement, late September or early October.
Okay.
So it's probably a time frame.
Right, it is. It's a time reference. And late September, early October, we're getting really close to the end of the sailing season. Listen, when I grew up in Yakima, well, there was no such, I don't know what a sailing season was. You could go out on the freeway lakes anytime you wanted to. There was the gravel pits were always open year round, except for ice. But when I moved here, I found out there's a sailing season. We have a sailing season here, and there's the opening day of boating season is what it's referred to here. And it would be like us saying, I'll see you 2 weeks before Christmas. Well, what does Christmas have to do with you seeing? No, I'm just giving you a time reference. So I'm going to see you, in the 11th or 10th or something of December. And as Randy said, the fast is another day for the Day of Atonement. So Luke is telling us here that they had lost a lot of time, probably waiting in Fair Havens for the winds to become favorable so that they can sail out of there and head west to Phoenix. And sailing, because of the lateness of the season now, was dangerous. In AD 59, the Day of Atonement would have been Monday, October 6th, and this was after the fast. So I don't know how many days, a couple of days, couple of weeks, could be either one. Sailing generally ceased the beginning of November. You didn't get out on the sea, on the Mediterranean Sea, in the open sea. You didn't do that after the beginning of November. And as we've already seen, they've had problems even getting to here because of the winds being against them. This is a particularly stormy late sailing season that they are involved in here. I still got a couple minutes. Let's see. Well, let's. I don't think it's going to take us very long. What did Paul warn them about in verse 10? Cindy?
That there'd be, if they kept on the journey, there'd be much injury and loss to them.
Loss of what?
Cargo
And
and lives.
and lives. And the ship. So apparently there was some sort of council meeting that took place about what they should do. They are in a very precarious situation here in Fair Havens. The members of the council seem to be the centurion, who is Julius. You have the pilot, who is the kubernetes in the Greek, who's an officer that would be responsible for navigating the ship. And you have the owner, which is the nakleros, who's the merchant ship owner or his representative. And we would call this last guy the captain. Okay? So we have a navigator, we have the centurion, or a pilot and the centurion, and we have the captain. Somehow Paul and maybe some of the other sailors are involved in this meeting. So we're still sitting in what I have in my notes as less than Fair Havens, waiting for the wind direction decision to be made. And they all meet. Again, why Paul is here is interesting. But does Paul have any experience sailing the Mediterranean? Yes. He's been all over the place. He's already been 3 journeys. And what does 2 Corinthians tells us in the 12th chapter? He's been shipwrecked more than once. What we're about to read is only one. Luke leaves off the other ones. I don't think it was all that unusual. I mean, Josephus had a horrible one. 2 Corinthians 11th chapter and verse 25 says that, he's shipwrecked. The night and the day he spent in the deep. That's obviously he wrote that before this moment. So maybe his experiences allowed him to stand. Anyway, he finds himself front and center, and he told them, "Men, I can see that our journey is going to be disastrous and bring great loss to ship, cargo, and to our own lives as well." And I think that Paul here is speaking from experience and not by inspiration. I don't think that's That's what he's doing here. Because when he does the latter, he's going to let them know that he's got a message from God when he's on the ship later on. The Greek words are described as being circumscribed future. This is going to be. It's what I foresee is, from my experience, is going to happen if we sail further. So it's not so much a prophecy as it is an educated guess and point. So any comments? All right, so we'll start with question 9. Be careful with your answer on that. I just give you a little heads up on that. All right, thank you very much. A little bit more than population.